Have the Philadelphia Eagles finally solved what's arguably been their biggest organizational flaw? That's what we're diving into right now. And if you're a real one, if you've been following this team through the highs, the lows, and everything in between, this is the kind of conversation that hits home. Before we get deep into it, it's worth noting a fun little fact that makes today even more special. July 8th marks the birthday of the Eagles. That's right! This franchise is officially 92 years old, nearly a century of gridiron. Tradition, unforgettable moments, heartbreaks, triumphs, and a whole lot of passionate football. And when you look back across that history, one position has been a constant puzzle for the Birds: wide receiver. For decades, the Eagles have had this strange roller coaster relationship with the wideout spot. There were bright moments, flashes of brilliance, but also long dark stretches where it felt like Philly was just cursed when it came to finding a true number one receiver. Go all the way back to the early days. Tommy McDonald was doing damage in the 50s and 60s. The man was a baller. Then came Harold Carmichael in the 70s, and you could argue he set the standard for what it meant to be an elite wideout. In this franchise, he was a matchup nightmare, just physically dominant. In the 80s, Mike Quick took the baton and kept the receiver legacy alive. He was smooth, consistent, and one of the best route runners of his time. But after that, things started to get shaky. The Buddy Ryan era, while iconic in its own right, was built on defense. It was all about pressure, toughness, and swagger on that side of the ball. Offensively, especially at wide receiver, the production started drying up. It wasn't until the late 90s that we got another brief glimpse of receiver excellence. Irving Fryer came over from the Miami Dolphins, and even though he was in the twilight of his career, he still managed to put together a couple of impressive seasons, going over 1,000 yards in 2 of his 3 years in Philly. But again, there was no long-term solution in sight. Then came the draft of 1999. That's when the Eagles selected Donovan McNabb, a quarterback out of Syracuse. And if you were around back then, you know how controversial that pick was. Fans were split. Many wanted Ricky Williams, the Heisman-winning running back. But the Eagles front office made the gutsy move and went with McNabb. In hindsight, it was absolutely the right call. That's wild to think about now, isn't it? A time when teams debated between drafting a quarterback and a running back with a top pick. That debate would never happen in today's NFL. Quarterback trumps everything now. But back then, it was a real conversation. So McNabb enters the scene. Doug Peterson was the placeholder for a season, giving McNabb time to get acclimated. By the time the year 2000 rolled around, Donovan had taken over the reins, and the Eagles were on a new trajectory. Under Andy Reid's leadership and McNabb's rising stardom, the team reached 4 straight NFC championship games in the early 2000s, 5 in total with that QB coach duo. They were knocking on the door for a title year after year, but there was always one glaring issue. They never had that long-term dominant number one receiver to fully unlock the offense. Sure, people will point to Terrell Owens. And yes, in his one full season with the Eagles, T.O. was electric. He took that team to another level. McNabb had a career year. The Eagles reached the Super Bowl. Even after that brutal horse collar tackle late in the season, Owens fought back, screws in his ankle and all, to put on a show in the big game, but his time in Philly was brief. Too brief. The off the field drama, the locker room tension, it all unraveled fast. So despite T.O.'s undeniable impact, he wasn't the long-term answer. And who were the receivers during that extended run with McNabb? James Thrash, Todd Pinkston, Kevin Curtis, solid guys in their own right, but not true number ones. That era was defined by a lack of star power at wideout, and it cost the Eagles dearly. You could argue that if McNabb had a legit number one receiver throughout those years, maybe Philly ends up with more than just one Super Bowl appearance. That's the type of what if that still keeps some fans up at night. Things began to shift a bit when Deshaun Jackson arrived. That man had jets. Lightning in a bottle. His rookie year? And the Eagles made it to the NFC Championship game. Again. It was the last one of the McNab Reed era. Soon after, Jeremy Maclin was drafted, and together Djax and Maclin formed a really exciting duo. They were fast, explosive, dynamic. But again, that pairing didn't last long. The team had potential with Michael Vick reviving his career, LaShawn McCoy breaking ankles, and those two at receiver. But instead of building on that, Momentum, the Eagles pivoted, and not in a good way. Enter Chip Kelly, and yeah, we all remember how that went. He came in with big ideas, college schemes, and a desire to reshape the organization in his own image. One of the biggest mistakes, he shoved Howie Roseman aside and took control of personnel decisions. That experiment failed fast. And when Djax and Macklin were gone, things got bleak. Look at the receiving leaders post-Macklin. In 2015, it was Jordan Matthews. Respect to him, he had some nice stretches, but he was never meant to be the guy. Then it gets even worse. From 2016 through 2019, the Eagles' leading receiver in yardage wasn't even a wideout. It was Zach Ertz, a tight end. Again, Zach Ertz was a beast. Probably the best tight end in Eagles history. But if your tight end is leading your team in receiving for 4 straight years, that says a lot about your lack of wide receiver production. And then 2020 rolls around and who tops the stat sheet? Travis Fulgham. Yeah. Remember that wild few game stretch where he looked like a superstar? That was it. A flash in the pan. A reminder of how desperate the Eagles were for any kind of production from that position. All of this paints a picture of an organization that for years simply couldn't figure it out at wide receiver. Whether it was poor draft picks, mismanagement, or bad luck, the Eagles were stuck. And then came the 2020 draft. That's when it all came to a head. Philly had a chance to take Justin Jefferson, a polished, productive receiver out of LSU. But they passed. They went with Jalen Reagor out of TCU instead. And that moment, that misfire, it may have been the wake-up call that changed everything. Now, you might be thinking, why would anyone be glad that the Eagles made such a huge draft mistake? But in a weird way, it was the catalyst. That Reagor pick forced Howie Roseman to reassess his entire approach. It made him reflect on what wasn't working. He stopped trying to outsmart the draft. No more small school sleepers, no more overthinking. Just take the best players from the best schools who played in the best conferences. That became the new philosophy. So what happened next? In 2021, the Eagles took Devonta Smith in the first round, a Heisman Trophy winner, a national champion, a guy who had one of the most dominant seasons in the history of college football. That pick instantly paid off. Smith broke the franchise record for most receiving yards by a rookie. He brought a level of polish, intelligence, and playmaking ability that Philly had been missing for years. But Howie wasn't done. He knew one great receiver wasn't enough. Not in today's NFL. The league had evolved. Passing attacks were now the centerpiece of successful offenses. So in 2022, during the NFL draft, Roseman made another bold move. He traded for A.J. Brown. And that move, that was a franchise changer. Brown immediately gave the Eagles a true alpha at wideout, a physical freak with elite hands, top-tier route running, and an edge that fit perfectly with the Philly mentality. Since that trade, A.J. Brown has been nothing short of spectacular. 3 straight all-pro level seasons, a top 3 receiver in the game. He's thrived in Philly in a way he never fully did in Tennessee, and the impact he's had on Jalen Hurts cannot be overstated. Because now Hurts has weapons, not just one, not just some promising guys, legitimate stars. Devonta Smith on one side, A.J. Brown on the other. 2 guys who can beat anyone, anywhere, at any time. And suddenly the narrative has flipped. From years of searching, of settling, of suffering through mediocrity at receiver, Philadelphia now boasts the best wide receiver duo in franchise history. Maybe even the best duo in the NFL, period. And the crazy part? They're just getting started. Devonta Smith doesn't get talked about enough. Let's be honest. He came into the league with enormous expectations. A Heisman winner, a title winner, and still somehow people doubted him. Too small, too skinny. Could he hold up against NFL defenders? Could he separate against pro corners? All he's done since arriving in Philadelphia is silence every single one of those questions. In his rookie season, he put up over 900 yards with Jalen Hurts still figuring things out. Then he followed it up with back-to-back seasons of over 1,000 yards despite sharing the field with A.J. Brown and being part of a run-heavy offense. That's not just impressive. That's elite production. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers around the NFL world have grown louder after veteran sportscaster Joe Buck made some pointed remarks that many interpreted as thinly veiled criticism of the Philadelphia Eagles. While Buck stopped short of directly calling out the franchise, his tone and carefully chosen words have ignited speculation that all may not be well in Philly, and that the famed broadcaster might know more than he's letting on. During a recent podcast appearance, Buck discussed the importance of leadership consistency and team identity, noting that some organizations seem to be straying from what made them successful in the first place. Though he didn't name names, he raised eyebrows when he added, "You look at a team that was in the Super Bowl not long ago, and now you wonder if they're really built to last." Given the Eagles' recent stumbles and ongoing questions surrounding coaching decisions and roster management, fans and insiders alike begin to connect the dots. Is Buck voicing a private concern shared by others within the league, or is he simply offering sharp commentary as he's known to do? Some believe that Buck's ties to long-standing NFL sources give his comments extra weight, suggesting he may be echoing sentiments from within the Eagles' own locker room. His mention of questionable locker room chemistry and misalignment between coaching and execution have only fueled speculation that there may be deeper issues behind the scenes. It's not the first time Buck's words have sparked conversation, but this time the timing feels different. With Philadelphia entering a pivotal season and the NFC East becoming increasingly competitive, any perceived instability could prove costly. Whether Buck's remarks were a mere observation or a subtle leak of inside chatter remains to be seen, but the buzz surrounding the Eagles has definitely intensified. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.